You see the lying, the massive lying that's going on. And we have refuted this nonsense over and over and over again. But I want to show y'all again, this is what happens when Donald Trump lies, and then folks like Senator Tim Scott runs to Fox News and constantly, he is lying on CNN and MSNBC, and it doesn't go to MSNBC, CNN and Fox News, over and over and over again. I'm talking about massive lies. I'm about to play some for y'all, and if y'all want to just hear sheer stupidity, just watch this.
I funded the colleges and black colleges and universities. Nobody else did that. Nobody else even thought of it. And I funded the colleges and black colleges and universities. Nobody else did that. Nobody else even thought of it. And I funded the colleges and black colleges and universities. Nobody else did that. Nobody else even thought of it. And
Kimbrough put this tweet out. It's past time for all HBCU supporters to push back on this narrative. HBCUs have received federal funding since 1966. This is the graphic that Walter posted. This is Title III funding from 1966 through 1997. Y'all, these are the facts. Now, let me explain to y'all what you have going on here. The lie that Donald Trump keeps promoting. First, it was a $250 million program that first happened under President George W. Bush. It was continued under President Barack Obama. Actually, it expired. They actually reauthorized it. Now, it's a $250 million program. Now, here's what's interesting, folks. Again, people don't want to deal with. Only about 90 million of that program goes to HBCUs. It is called the Future Act. The additional money goes to Hispanic serving institutions, okay? That's what it is, okay? The Trump folks zeroed the program out in their budget, meaning they ended it. It was Congresswoman Alma Adams, Congressman Bobby Scott, and Democrats who said, no, we putting this back in. Fought for it. When it went over to the Senate, they filibustered it. Senator Lamar Alexander of Tennessee, and then Representative Adams, Representative Scott, and others were pressing them. When the HBCU presidents had their meetings here in D.C., and when he brought them to the White House, remember the whole photo, they all standing behind him, and Kellyanne Conway with her little country ass, shoes off, knees all in the Oval Office couch on her phone. They said, we need to push this particular bill. Then he goes, a win. So, let me get involved in this. And so what he then did was, he then tried to claim that he was the one who came up with it. It wouldn't have happened without him. So I don't know what we are to do. Y'all, Anthony, go to my iPad. Y'all see this right here? HR 5363, who the sponsor is, right here. Committees, House Education and Labor, who's the chair of that subcommittee, Congressman Bobby Scott. Y'all, that's what happened. Donald Trump is lying, Tim Scott is lying, and anybody else who's out here talking about, how Trump was a savior to black people, and you notice they never ever give a number. Donald Trump has done more funding. This is Tim Scott. Donald Trump funded black colleges more than anybody else. And you never hear Margaret Brennan. You don't even hear Abby Phillips. You don't hear any of these people saying, Senator, can you give me the number? Can you tell me how much HBCUs received in funding under the Trump administration? You never hear them ask that question because they're not well versed on these topics.
Well, there's a weird sort of agreement, too, of just not wanting to counter these people or have sort of this sort of both sides thing that it's going on, where the media, instead of protecting the truth, lets these people say this stuff over and over again?
Because they don't know jack. Let's be real clear, Lauren. They don't know jack about HBCUs. They don't. Even the black people on mainstream television, they don't.
But really, also on top of that, I mean, remember when everybody was tied up in knots 4 or 5 years ago over whether or not we should use the word liar when it came to...
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Liar. Should we use the word liar? That entire ridiculous conversation. And what they were doing was getting on national television and repeating lies over and over again, knowing that that would platform it, and knowing that about 60 or 70% of the audience was going to believe it. Until finally the media started to wake up. But yeah, to your point, they don't know anything about HBCU funding. So that's the other problem. You know, but it's amazing to me the extent to which straight up lying gets routinely platformed on national TV. It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm. These folks, they're lying, and here's this is what misinformation comes in. You got Negroes running around left and right, Greg, coming back at me on social media, repeating the lie because Donald Trump repeated the lie and made it sound like he was the savior of HBCUs. 16 billion. This is also why. Wait, go ahead and comment on that, Greg.
No. I mean, all I was going to say, thank you, Roland, is that, you know, they have figured out the strategy. The question you asked a few minutes ago is the question: how do we counter it? It's got to be a multi-pronged strategy. And, you know, Reese, thank you again for distinguishing between dis and misinformation. Trump has figured it out. Let's just take our hat off to him. It doesn't matter whether it happened. You just have to. The fool said a couple of days ago he never said lock her up. It doesn't matter. You know, the Roots picnic was this past weekend in Philly. And back in February, when Sexy Red was added to the lineup for the Roots picnic, Questlove defended it, said, you know, we want to have diversity. Yeah, people listen to Sexy Red just like they listen to 50 Cent, just like they listen to other people stupidly, Lil Wayne and them coming around, you know, talking crazy. Sexy Red, oh yeah, man, Trump was giving out them checks. The challenge is, how do you counter foolishness? How do you counter lies? You counter them with facts. You counter them with doing what you're doing right now, what we're doing right here, but you also counter it by creating a narrative that is very clear and that not only says we have a clear choice coming up in this upcoming election, but that I really think this, we need to start narrating this not only in terms of the right and the left and Democrats, Republicans, and fascism, good versus evil. I mean, you know, black folk gonna go spend their money on a Tyler Perry movie, gonna watch every possible iteration of 50 Cent's pathology stuff on Stars and all this kind of stuff, you know, and people generally like good guys and bad guys. You can't counter a straight liar who will look you in the face and say anything. It's just like when we were children. Somebody breaks something and one sibling come in and say, I didn't do it. The other sibling says, I got evidence. But if you get into too big of a back and forth with the one who's telling a bold-faced lie, both of y'all take an L. At some point, you got to decide that this is a bright line. And when you have the courage of your convictions, you were not going to stop them from lying, but you can back people up off of you with the simple fact that no, we got to do. I mean, you know, it's done here, but it's not just about a matter of fact. He know he lying. He knows he's lying. He understands it's effective though, because most people ain't gonna check it out.
Yep. In fact, again, Reese, here is lying Tim Scott. This ain't even, this is your opinion. No, this right here is Senator Tim Scott lying on Fox News. Listen.
Who's the president who brought the most money in for historically black colleges and universities? Donald Trump.
Straight ass lie. Just like straight lie. I'm gonna watch this here. Listen to this here. This is another conversation on Fox News.
I think the Biden team needs to make a positive case for what they're doing. Investment in HBCUs. He just had a bunch of them to the White House of their leaders recently. A lot of employment opportunities for Black Americans. They have a positive story to tell. I also think they do need to draw the contrast with Trump. The way he talked about Black Lives Matter, the Central Park Five, those are real things Donald Trump has said. There's a story out today about Trump's very...
Now, so here's the thing that again, that folk got to pay attention to, got to understand. And this is also what happens when you step on your own message. It was a couple of weeks ago, Reese, when the Biden White House announced it was beginning on a Thursday, $16 billion to HBCUs. Well, guess what? The next day, the Department of Justice came out, reclassification of marijuana. There were more posts on the Biden Harris social media pages about the reclassification of marijuana than the $16 billion. I then went to, and remember, we had Cameron Trimble, who used to work at the White House at the digital operation, on the show, and he was talking about, he said, I'm sure the information is on all of the HBCU Instagram pages. I pulled them up. It wasn't.
No.
It wasn't, because I immediately checked. It wasn't on Watch the Yard. It wasn't on all of them. And again, this is a perfect example of how not only the Biden-Harris administration, but also their campaign absolutely screws it up, because here's what I've never seen. I've literally never seen the Biden-Harris campaign pull the research and say, HBCUs got this in the 4 years of Trump. Let's say $4 billion. Biden-Harris, $16 billion. Contrast it. Don't just let the lie stands go. No, you gave them this, we gave them this. You tried to get rid of the program that you claim, and this is actually how we saved it. I'm like, damn, if you're gonna fight, damn it, fight.
Right.
Well, here's the thing, too. In addition to inadequately taking credit for the things that are happening under this administration, they concede too much ground to Trump in terms of what he actually did. Here's a headline. March 22, 2018 from News One. Secure the bag. Kamala Harris helps get millions for HBCUs. A funding increase was included in the Senate's omnibus spending bill. This was something that I talked about so many times as an advocate for Kamala Harris. It was a 14% increase in the Senate omnibus. Be clear. I know we talk a lot about what Congresswoman Alma Adams did, but Vice President Kamala Harris, then Senator Kamala Harris, and Tim Scott was her colleague, he would know this, was in the Senate securing additional funding for HBCUs as well. I remember during COVID where she secured $5 million for Howard. They have a hospital and a medical school, and she got into a Marco Rubio because he was like, why are they getting $5 million? And so she did so much work. And Democrats, remember, there was a time under the Trump administration where the Democrats had the House. They don't do enough to counter the fact that a lot of the things that Trump wants to take credit for were actually spearheaded in a result of the Democratic majority in the House and through advocacy and actions that were done through senators. And so they have a winning story to tell under the Biden-Harris administration, $16 billion for HBCUs. It's not even including the things that they did around HBCU safety grants. They're constantly bringing in HBCU presidents, the Divine Nine presidents, and all these other Black organizations. And then it's crickets about it. I mean, you can't just post a picture on your Instagram or on your Twitter and then leave it alone. They let these stories become a 1 hour, 2 hour story as opposed to being incorporated into their greater disciplined messaging strategy. And so that's where they continue to fall short. And unfortunately, the other side is very smart. Trump, he had the Trump Platinum Plan, which was bullshit, but he knew how to message it. He'll say HBCUs. He don't give a damn about HBCUs, but they know how to message it.
Well, in fact,
constantly invoke.
In fact, this person, somebody named Andre Johnson, who is a professor of communications, also is an author. He put this tweet up. He said, the reason why folks think Trump gave more money to HBCUs was because of this photo. The photo speaks volumes. So what is the moral of the story? And so here you go. So this is what he did. It was stagecraft. What he did was brought him to the Oval Office. Look at all the folks sitting here. Not everybody sitting here, skinning and grinning in this photo. But that's the whole deal. You brought them all in the Oval Office and gave the impression, I just love y'all, when he was really trying to slit their throats until Congresswoman Alma Adams, Congressman Bobby Scott said, no, we're not going to let that happen.
Well, you saw the photograph.
Hold on. Greg, then Reese, then Lauren. Go.
Sorry.
Just very quickly, you saw the photograph there. You saw who was standing right there to our left, his right. And that was, of course, the president of Tennessee State, who has been deposed by the white nationalist legislature there, and they flipped the board. That's President Glenda Baskin Glover. She is not a Trump supporter. She's behind the cotton curtain. The president of the United States calls. And I just want to wrap this up with my little comment, and I'll get out of your way, Reese, with going back to where you started tonight's show, with a federal intervention, calling for a federal intervention in the rogue white nationalist state of Texas. The same thing happens with higher education. Right now in Mississippi, they're going to go after several HBCUs again. Valley is under the threat. They're going to keep digging at Jackson State. In a second term, what we need to hear from Biden-Harris is not only what they've accomplished, which is very important, but what they're going to do next. All of the money that is owed the HBCUs, it's time to go to court now. And it's time for you to put that in your stump speeches when you travel through the South. It's time. The vice president can't do that. The president's going to have to green light that. Y'all need to get off the fence chasing these three toothless white voters and decide whether you want to win this election or not. And that's going to require some debts that are going to be paid forward when you win in November, if you want people to come out. And one of those debts, as it relates to HBCUs, is going after these white legislatures who have made a blood oath to destroy black colleges behind the cotton curtain in the neo-Jim Crow South, including Mr. Donald's almost alma mater, FAMU. We've got to be aggressive now on what you're going to do going forward, tied to what you've already done. At least that's my opinion.
Reese.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with Dr. Carr. You have to take credit, but you have to contrast. I mean, look at what Trump did. I did this. Nobody else did it before me. Nobody else thought about it until I did it. He's always contrasting when he takes credit. Too often, this administration and their messaging, they don't contrast between what they've done and what the other side is doing. Like to Dr. Carr's point said, when they're talking about the HBCU funding and the support they have, they need to be contrasting to what the Republican governors are doing across the states when it comes to HBCUs, as well as to these DEI departments that are being dismantled. I haven't heard enough about outrage around that. Whole departments being shut down in the state of Texas and in the state of Florida. So until they really wrap their minds and their messaging around the fact that you can't just put it in a meme that's $16 billion in big font, you have to learn how to talk and message and contrast, and do that with a disciplined, relentless manner, not just you, but your surrogates who are on TV, that are on the radio, that are on the Roland Martin filters, et cetera. If you value them enough to send them here, then you're going to continue to be losing to a very simple message. Donald Trump did all this stuff for black people, when it isn't even true.
Somebody's killing poor people, and it's going on.
When COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
Take back the money. Take back the money. Take back the money. Take back the money.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farmworker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor. Having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties have waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for more revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? 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 We are a resurrection, and we are ready.